Mars has been many things to us: a myth, a mystery, a mirror. We've gazed at its reddish hue in the night sky for thousands of years. Ancient civilizations imagined gods and monsters there. In the 20th century, it became the stage for science fiction, home to warlike Martians, lost civilizations, and interplanetary empires. And now, in the 21st century, it represents something far more grounded and far more ambitious. A second home. At the center of that ambition is Elon Musk. Not a government, not a nation, but a man, backed by engineers, fueled by capital, and driven by an obsession to make humanity multiplanetary. He has a plan, he has a fleet, he has a timeline, and he has a promise: build a self-sustaining city on Mars. Not someday, but soon. The rockets are real. The factories are building. The countdown, in Musk's mind, has already started. But dreams, no matter how expensive or exhilarating, are not immune to physics. So we ask a question that cuts through the spectacle. Would Elon Musk's Mars colony actually work? Or is it a fantasy on the edge of a vacuum? To Musk, colonizing Mars isn't just a dream. It's an existential necessity. He speaks of it often, not in terms of conquest or glory, but of survival. We need to become a multiplanetary species, he says, to safeguard the light of consciousness. He sees Earth as fragile, temporary, vulnerable to extinction events, whether natural or man-made. And Mars? Mars is the lifeboat, the escape hatch, the insurance policy on civilization itself. The plan begins with Starship, a fully reusable spacecraft capable of carrying 100 people at a time. SpaceX envisions fleets of them launching every 26 months, timed to the favorable alignment of Earth and Mars. Each ship would carry settlers, cargo, tools, robots, greenhouses, reactors, and the raw materials for a new society. In Musk's words, it won't be a scientific outpost, it'll be a full city. With bars, schools, foundries, parks, 1 million people living, working, thriving on another planet. It's a grand vision, but grand visions often die in the details. Mars is not Earth. Its beauty hides its brutality. The atmosphere is thin, less than 1% the pressure of Earth's. It's almost entirely carbon dioxide. There's not enough oxygen to breathe, not enough pressure to keep blood from boiling. A human exposed to Martian air would lose consciousness in seconds and die in minutes. Temperatures routinely plunge to -80 degrees Celsius. The air is dry, dusty, and unbreathable. And even if you build a shelter, there's no shield from the radiation. Mars has no global magnetic field, no ozone layer, no natural protection from the endless storm of cosmic rays and solar particles. The radiation levels on Mars exceed what's considered safe for long-term human health. Living on the surface would be like living inside a nuclear reactor with the door left open. Musk proposes to cover habitats with regolith, Martian soil, to create makeshift radiation shielding, or to dig underground, using lava tubes or burrowed bases. It's a start, but every solution comes with trade-offs. Every structure must be airtight. Every bolt must hold. Every life support system must work, always. On Mars, the air itself is trying to kill you. A colony must be more than a camp. It must be sustainable. You cannot ship air and water across the solar system forever. You must create it locally from scratch. That means closed-loop life support systems, machines that extract oxygen from CO2, recover water from waste, and regulate pressure, humidity, and temperature with zero margin for error. One leak, one power failure, one broken filter, and people die. Then there's food. Initial settlers may bring MREs and rations, But those are short-term solutions. For true colonization, you need agriculture, greenhouses, hydroponics, possibly genetically modified crops adapted for Martian gravity and lighting. Musk talks of domes filled with plants, algae bioreactors for protein, vertical farms powered by sunlight or artificial LEDs. But Martian sunlight is weak, only 43% of Earth's, and massive dust storms can last for weeks, even months, blotting out the sun completely. That's why SpaceX may need nuclear reactors, compact, modular, efficient. They provide the electricity needed to grow food, heat habitats, and keep systems running during the long Martian nights. But nothing on Mars is free. Every calorie, every watt, every breath must be engineered. Before a colony comes a base. Before the base comes infrastructure. Landing pads, fuel plants, power systems, water extraction rigs, communication satellites. None of these exist on Mars. They must be delivered, deployed, tested, and maintained before the first humans even arrive. This is where ISRU, in situ resource utilization, becomes vital. It's not science fiction, it's strategy. Instead of shipping fuel from Earth, Musk proposes making it on Mars, extracting CO2 from the atmosphere and combining it with hydrogen from buried ice to produce methane and oxygen. The very same fuel Starship runs on. Water will come from ice, dug up, melted, filtered. Oxygen split from water. Hydrogen captured for fuel. Even bricks and building materials could be made from Martian soil using 3D printers and solar-powered furnaces. The settlers won't just live on Mars. They'll build it. Every outpost, every greenhouse, every pipe and panel and pressure vessel. Not shipped, but created. This is colonization not as exploration, but as terraforming, one screw and circuit at a time. Humans are fragile, machines less so. That's why the first boots on Mars won't be boots at all. They'll be wheels, claws, drones, rovers, arms, and artificial minds. Robots will pave the landing sites, unfold the solar farms, dig the trenches, start the reactors, set up the comms. They'll be the silent crew that prepares the planet for the noisy, needy humans that follow. SpaceX already builds some of the world's most advanced manufacturing robots. In the Martian theater, those skills become survival. Imagine fleets of solar-powered diggers carving tunnels, autonomous rovers laying fiber optic cable, drones scouting ice deposits, and relay towers stitching Mars into a planetary internet. Each machine talking to the next, each failure flagged, logged, and fixed. Before the first settlers arrive, an entire invisible civilization of robots may already be there, digging, building, waiting. We weren't built for Mars. Human biology is a delicate equilibrium evolved over millions of years for this one planet, this one atmosphere, this one gravitational pull. Mars' gravity is 38 centimos. What happens to the human body long-term in such an environment? No one knows. Muscles may weaken, bones may thin, immune systems may falter. Children born on Mars may never be able to return to Earth, if they're able to survive at all. There's also the psychological weight. No trees, no rain, no wind in your hair, no birdsong, no ocean, just red dust, metal walls, and the slow silence of isolation. Depression, cabin fever, claustrophobia, grief. These aren't technical problems. They're human ones, and they will arrive faster than frostbite. The colony will need doctors, therapists, entertainment, community, rituals, purpose. Survival isn't just biological. It's emotional. Mars is far, not just in distance, but in delay. Depending on alignment, Mars is 55 to 400 million kilometers away. The signal delay is up to 22 minutes. A round-trip message could take 44. If something breaks, there is no calling Earth, no drone delivery, no immediate rescue. That's why supply chains are everything. Spare parts, redundant systems, modular habitats, emergency protocols. Every screw matters. Every checklist is a life preserver. Musk knows this. That's why local manufacturing is a cornerstone of the plan. If you can't build it on Mars, you can't rely on it.